You see that emblem in the sky? That's Batman.
This is October's Longbox, and we're going to be talking about Batman: The Long Halloween. I'm joined by my two friends, my Splash Network co-hosts, Chris and Joe.
Hey, Thor, what's going on, buddy?
Say hi. Not much.
What's going on, fellas? How are we doing?
Good, good. We got all three of us are Skyping in here today. Just a little.
From
usually Joe
locations.
and Chris are together.
We're not even in the same state, me and Joe, today.
We're talking about
I can deal with that.
Tim Sale, Jeph Loeb, Batman: The Long Halloween.
Yeah.
Which is one of my all-time favorites. And I wanted to, I guess a good place to start is I always like to talk about context and like how I got into these things. So this is going to be a little bit of a story, but nevertheless, I first learned about The Long Halloween during the Dark Knight viral campaign. Do you guys remember that? When The Dark Knight was coming out, they had this amazing viral campaign where they were dropping clues everywhere that would lead to websites that would have audio clips, and it was just really cool. Yeah, it was. I mean, I looked it up a little bit last night to try to refresh myself. I'm pretty much going on memory, and this was 10 years ago. But one of the things I remember is they had a jack-o'-lantern on a website, and it started to deteriorate and build, and then I think once it went away, it went to another clue. But what everybody took that as was that there was a connection between The Dark Knight and The Long Halloween. And I was so excited for that movie. Like, I saw the movie 5 times in theaters, you know. Wow. I love that movie to death.
Okay, I saw it 3 times in theaters.
So anyway, I was excited, and I was watching all the trailers, and right before it came out, I had gone on a trip to Alaska. And I was just backpacking around with, like, no plan. I was there for a month, just moving around, spending my money, having a good time. And I hopped into a comic book store, and I found this book, Long Halloween, that I knew was going to, you know, somehow be connected or inspire The Dark Knight. And that's when I first read it. I read it in, you know, tents all over Alaska. It was kind of cool. So I always think about that when I think about the book. And we'll talk about the connections between those movies. And then I think I got you into it when we first met. Definitely. Or around the time that we first met.
I think it was the second season we were together that you started talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you started getting me back into it. Actually, whatever New 52, whenever New 52 dropped, is when you started pushing that Batman line on me. You know, that New 52 line.
Oh, okay.
And then you pushed Hush, and then you pushed
That's 2011. I think that is the first year that we worked together at
We might have been behind about it though, because I was way behind when I bought all the Batman books. There was like 30, so there was a lot of them, dude. So I was way behind. So if you're doing one a month, there's 12 a year. If I was in issue 24, 26, I was probably 2 years behind. That makes sense. So
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Circa 2014. So
and then I think like all of our long boxes, Joe read it for the first time in preparation.
Is that right, Joe?
Of course I did. That is correct. I am waiting for all types of new comics to come my way. And this one, it was all right.
Oh.
Okay. It was all right.
Joe's gonna hang up now, and me and Thor will continue this call.
Well, so I reread it, and I reread it in detail. And what's that face?
Your house got run over by a truck, but don't worry about it.
You guys heard that? Yeah. Right. I read it in detail, and you know what's fun is that a couple months back, and you guys can check this out, we did one of our first long boxes was Batman Year One.
Yes.
And this is pretty much a sequel to Batman Year One. I mean, all the characters are there, and then they're constantly referencing things that happened directly in it. Batman and Catwoman meet in Roman's penthouse again. He's got the scars on his face. You know, those all occurred in Year One. So let's get, we could talk about it in detail, but I just want to get
your... You want to get overall?
Yeah, just general. Like I said, I love it to death. Jeph Loeb is a favorite of mine. My first ever, when I got into comic books and became like an actual collector, is right when Hush was breaking. I had a Wizard magazine that had a preview of Hush in it. I remember reading that, and I bought every issue. I loved Hush. You've read that, Campbell, I believe.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you have, Joe. That'll be on your reading list.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that will be on my reading list.
It's a good
When we
one.
do it.
I'm sure it's gonna be a long box.
It could be a long
Yeah.
box. Yeah, it's been. I haven't reread it in years, so that'd be good.
Only side comics I read. Only side comics I will read besides the ones that we have here are my Deadpool Cable ones and Deadpool ones. So yeah, it needs to be a long box because I have
All right, that's what it
backlogs
takes.
of catalog.
That's what it takes. That's what it takes. So, Cable, what are some of the things you liked about the book the most?
I love the writing. I love Jeph Loeb. Now, to give it some context here before we get into all this stuff, Jeph Loeb was the first crossover guy. A lot of people we covered one already, but it didn't get on to air because it was bad audio. It's gonna go back out there. Daredevil. That's the most popular crossover guy. A guy who did movies and then wrote a comic book. But Jeph Loeb was the first guy. This guy was big. You know, he wrote Teen Wolf, right? Commando, ton of '80s movies. This guy was popular. He was getting all the opportunities to write. And then they asked him if he wanted to do a comic book, and he started. I can't remember the title, but when they brought him in, it was against the wishes of the people at DC. So the person that brought him in. They sat down with probably the editor and said, "Okay, what book can I write?" And every time he mentioned a book, the editor would say, "No, we got someone on that. No, we're not doing that one. No." So they went down the line until there was this book that no one did since like the '60s, and he did it, and it became popular. And then they started using him. So he did 3 Halloween books or 2 more Halloween books before this on their own.
There was Long Halloween, and then there was Dark Victory, which is it's a sequel and it's a full series.
Right, but he actually did.
And then he had 3 one-shots. Those one-shots came after the Long Halloween, I think.
Okay, because I was talking to Pat about it. Pat just brought it up this morning that he did 2 other Halloween specials, which I didn't know about.
Yeah. They're one-shots. I own at least one of them.
Okay.
Back at the house.
So so he had some writing under his belt before he came out and did the Long Halloween, and the editor, for the group editor, Archie Goodwin, approached him and said, "I want you and Sale to do this noir kind of book, like using the gangsters that you used before." Now, to this day, Jeph has no idea what he was talking about because him and Tim never drew gangsters in their books. So Archie might have got a little confused there, but that's what they decided to do, and they brought the gangsters into the book, which was done in year 1, of course, but now the art in the book itself, I know it's not for everybody because it's very noir style. I know Joe doesn't like the art at all in this, right?
I love it.
It's awful.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
we
I
can.
just
There's
a lot.
Now, it's not that the artwork's bad. It's when I'm thinking of a comic book, and now everybody has a different vision of what they're imagining to see. This isn't a comic book to me. This is literally a great story, an amazing story with a fantastic ending. But it, just like the noir, it reads and it feels like one of those old school movies. And if that's what you were going for, then that's what you're going for. But it's not a book that I would ever pick up. Like if I was in a comic book store scrolling through the graphic novels and I flipped open this book, this wouldn't be a book I would buy.
See, I like the art. I like the art in this. It's
There are about 4 or 5 good shots, good scene splash pages that I enjoy a lot, and that I've taken pictures of and made like really good images with. But that doesn't cover all of it for me. Like it doesn't appeal. Not like the Wonder Woman one that we did, the Wonder Woman Earth one, by far is probably my favorite artwork that we've seen in the comics that we've done. So yeah,
a totally different style.
I enjoy the story a lot. I would read this story by itself without the graphics. Yeah.
If you told me, Chris, that they could take this book and they would turn it into the Matt Reeves Batman that's coming out, I would tell you do it right now. Because it's just I love it. I love the story. It's amazing. I have 2 books that are highest on my list when it comes to Batman, and they're at 2 different points in my comic book life. The first is The Dark Knight Returns, which is at the beginning of my comic book. It's one of the first books I ever picked up. I got the leather-bound Frank Miller collection, which had year 1, The Dark Knight Returns, and the Santa Claus story stuck in the middle, which always makes me laugh. Because it's Frank Miller collection, so that's why it's in there. But which one doesn't belong and why? And in that book, where at the grizzled end of Batman, and he's coming back because he can't give it up, and it's about the raw power of not quitting and not backing down. This book, we get to see Batman be a detective, which is what I grew up reading, in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's really cool. And I read this book when I got back into comics, when I was out for such a long, long time. It's hard to me to tell you what I overall love about this book. I mean, there's so much of it. I love how they put the Rogues Gallery in there, but they're not like blatantly thrown in there just because they wanted to get them in there. They tie in for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, we got to put the Scarecrow in because it's his time. No, they make him fit into the story. That's I like that. When the Scarecrow is on the horse, that's a great shot. Shot. A great splash page. And the writing, Jeph Loeb, he knows how to write. He knows how to set up a story. The beginning of the book reminds me of The Godfather when they start off. I believe in.
There's
Gotham
a lot
City.
of
yeah.
There's a lot of things that like reminiscent of The Godfather.
Well, you gotta figure Jeph Loeb is picking what he loves. Picking his favorite stuff. What he was influenced by. So.
Oh sure.
But I don't know. Do you want to give a synopsis of the whole book, Chris, or you want to just keep a review of it?
Not really, but just to refresh everyone's memory. In the first book,
each month. Okay, so it goes 13 months, Halloween to Halloween, and that's why it's called the Long Halloween, because it starts at Halloween and ends at Halloween, and there's a holiday killer that kills someone on each holiday of each month, right?
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
forget some of the months that don't have holidays, which days they picked, because there were some weird ones in there.
There are some weird ones. They do New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, April Fool's Day, Mother's Day, and then Father's Day, which obviously are great because of how they tie in with Bruce.
Right. Yep.
And then they do Independence Day, Chapter 11's Roman holiday, which takes place in August, then Labor Day, and then you're back to Halloween.
Okay. So it's only the Roman holiday that's the weird one.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But I know it was on my birthday.
Well, that's cool.
So let's see here. So in the first book, Falcone's nephew gets killed, and there's a is left there for him. Pumpkin. The next Halloween, Thanksgiving, someone gets killed, and then that's when it really starts that like these killings happen on a holiday, and Batman and Gordon are trying to catch the holiday killer, but at the same time, they're all together with Dent to try to take down Falcone. A lot like in The Dark Knight, they get together and say, we're going to take down the crime, and that's how it starts for them. The only holiday that didn't have anyone killed was April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. That was great.
The Riddler is, people shoot up the Riddler, but don't kill him. And then he never really reveals who it was that was shooting, as far as I remember. So yeah, and then
you know what the best part about all of that was?
What's that?
I think the best part about all of this is that the villains and the rogues had their own particular part to play in the entire discovery of what's going on. They all wanted to find out who was the holiday killer, and I thought that was more intriguing of a storyline. Like we are supposed to be the bad guys. We are supposed to be the ones tormenting Gotham, but who is this person making the Riddler not be able to answer questions? The Calendar Man question what's going on. All these different things and struggles that they were facing themselves made it way more intriguing than just Batman hunting down another escaped asylum person. So yeah,
the Joker is insanely jealous of the holiday killer.
Who else?
He visits Dent in his house.
Batman's attention.
To confront him about it. He visits the Romans to confront him about it. And then eventually Batman gets him. And talking about, this is kind of skipping around back to the art. I like the way the Joker's drawn with those gigantic, long, yellow French fried teeth.
Yeah.
That big smile.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
And the length of his face, the face is
it's cartoony. And that's the thing is this has some of those, sort of cartoony elements. Another one would be Batman's cape. Is humongous the way he draws it. And I always liked that. I always liked Batman with a really long cape that would never work in the real life, but looks cool. So in the end, again, we haven't really spoiled the book for anybody. And if you're listening to this, you've probably read it. But if not, I'm going to spoil it now.
Can I please do it? Can I spoil it?
Go ahead, Joe. You love spoilers.
I love movies and TV shows so much that I didn't even see this one coming. That was what made this book worth reading at the end, was having her be the killer. And especially since it confirmed the Holiday killer. He was like, it's always a her. It's always a her. And you're like, who else could it possibly be? Catwoman's not doing it. I knew that off the bat. So then when you find out it's Harvey Dent's wife, so good.
Yeah,
that was the best end to the whole
Calendar Man keeps referring to it as a her, but then he kind of switches it to and calls it him, so he's kind of playing games. And they kind of make you guess also like who killed who. Because in the end, Gilda, Alberto Falcone, and Dent, were all people that killed on Holidays. But Dent, I think it's revealed in the book, or it's definitely hinted at that he did it before he turned into Two-Face.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was.
Wow.
It's I don't remember.
I got
the person
it right here.
Killed.
If you give me a second.
Yeah, no, but you can see that they're hinting towards that at the end when she's going over her last synopsis storyline on the last page of the comic. And it's great where she's burning all the evidence and trying to protect what he did for her and all they wanted to do, and like it's so weirdly euphoric to have her come back at the end of the entire series of these books, to have her think that all I wanted to do was just spend some time with you and none of this could ever happen. Imagine 12 months of no killing if he would have just taken her out to dinner occasionally once a month.
The book opens up with "I believe in Gotham City" and it closes with "I believe in Harvey Dent," which is really cool.
And that I believe in Harvey Dent, again, to go back into The Dark Knight, that was all over the promotion for The Dark Knight, and that was another phrase that we knew from this book. And scenes like the three of them on the rooftop, that's a famous scene in the film, and that happens in this book.
Yes.
And just the way they focus on the mobsters and just how that war. I mean, there's no way you can't tell me that that movie doesn't lift heavily from this book.
Oh yeah.
It's great.
Here's a question for you: How much can you ignore the fact that Catwoman and Batman don't know who they are in real life?
Each other in this book?
Yes.
I didn't see it being a problem like Joe does. I don't know where he's getting at.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm used to that being a thing. It doesn't bother me. I don't know.
I think you're into comic books too late. You have to just suspend certain stuff, Like Superman puts on a pair of glasses and no one can recognize who he is.
No, BS. Here's why that's BS. She literally follows Poison Ivy back to Bruce Wayne. Why would she, the person that loves self-preservation, go and save Bruce Wayne?
Because Selena Kyle is in love with Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
She's not going to show up. She's not going to show up there like Selena Kyle. She's going to put on her.
But then why Bruce Wayne, the master detective that he is, not going to figure out why is Catwoman the one that saved me?
Maybe I wasn't reading it closely enough, but I just assumed that Batman did know who they were. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. No, maybe he didn't though. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, no, because he asked, "Why are you always here? Why are you always there?" Blah 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 blah. I would have asked you. And this is also the ugliest Selena Kyle I've ever seen.
The ugliest Selena Kyle.
When she's not outside of it is the ugliest Selena Kyle I've ever seen. Outside of her Catwoman costume. Catwoman costume's good, nice noir feeling to it, but her face,
gigantic ears.
Yeah, she just looks like she came. She looks like she was a fresh prostitute, just diminished. Yeah, like they're like, you can't be here. I know she was a prostitute. Was she a French prostitute?
I don't know her heritage. What's where does Kyle come from?
I don't know. We'll type her name into Ancestry.com and see what comes up.
Yeah, see what happens.
So we'll find out. So, but now with Harvey Dent, and the same thing, you're right. It did take a lot from The Dark Knight and the court scene and how he becomes who he becomes, and even up with the coin. And I like this story of how he got the coin more so than the story before. I don't know if they're the same. I can't remember The Dark Knight exactly.
The Dark Knight, he just mentions that it's his lucky coin.
Okay.
I don't know if he mentions it being his father's or not.
See, I haven't seen it in a while to remember that. But what makes Harvey Dent such a appealing character is that no matter what, he still kind of believes. And there's a lot of question of like, where's the line and where do we cross it? And even Gordon seems to have that question more so every now and then than even Batman does. And there's a very good scene at the end where he's talking about how he made the promise to prevent these things from happening. And he's talking about what he did for his let me see. I made a promise to my parents to protect the city from the evil that took their lives. If I am to succeed, I must be willing to deal out the punishment. And then Gordon stops him and says, Batman, enough. I won't let you do something that we'll both regret. So I don't know
If he was going to go further?
Yeah, like it's like if you see him and it's really hard to grasp, is he just smashing his head? Is he choking him? Because the next page over, I don't know where you guys are in it, but it's towards the end of it, where he looks like he's covering his mouth and he's strangling the mess out of him. So I'm unaware of like how far he actually could have taken it. I mean, granted, you see him coughing up and then I don't know. Do you think that there is a line that he really needs to carry through all the time? We've had this fight before with Batman versus Superman, but do you think that Batman crosses the line? Is that too far on certain things?
Go ahead.
The line with Batman is present in throughout history of the Batman comics, and the flirtation of him going too far always comes in when he gets too violent. The line for him has never been killing. That won't a line he won't cross. You know, the killing joke aside, what your opinion is on if that's what happened or not. But his thing is that there's been times where he can get too rough and stuff like that, and has to call himself back. And those are the trials that he goes through himself, and he realizes that he's gone too far and has to dial it back down. Especially when he sees it in it was one of the Robins that was going way too crazy, and he was killing and he was breaking like collarbones and stuff like that, and he was getting scolded by Batman. I can't remember what book that was in, but
yeah, but that's so hypocritical. I mean, he breaks both of Falcone's arms, Alberto Falcone's arms.
There's so much he does. Exactly.
Like he throughout the comic, like he just, I don't know, like if it's ever covered, like how close he's willing to bring people to death and why he won't just kill them. What does he want?
Figure that out.
Like, Batman doesn't really seem to be into rehabilitation. It's more like, knock the crap out of them, lock them up forever until they die of natural causes.
Yeah, but everybody escapes Arkham.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean. It's like what his end game is for like cleaning up Gotham as far as dealing with these criminals. Sometimes it's just kind of unclear.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering if anyone could clarify that. Also, did you guys like this version of Poison Ivy?
That's probably the one character who I didn't really care for the way she was drawn.
Okay.
Same here.
With the flowers
I don't know why. Maybe
all over her.
Maybe it was too sort of science fiction for me. I don't know.
Okay. I love the Scarecrow. The Penguin makes sense. Solomon Grundy makes sense.
The Penguin is
the
like
Mad Hatter.
Waist.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, Mad Hatter was weird. I don't remember him always being that small. Was he smaller? Like, or are they just basing that off Dallas?
I always saw him as small, not Penguin small, but like, maybe like Jerry small.
Yeah, he's Penguin small in this. Yeah.
To reference somebody and nobody knows what we're talking about.
5'4", 5'5". Dude, you got it.
One of my favorite shots, and it depends on which version of the book you have, but if you have the big paperback trade like me and Campbell, on 342 there's a shot of Dent with all the villains around him. They brought into the Roman's house. That's so cool. And I'm willing to, like, it's so weird because I wouldn't think like these people are going to work together, but the fact that Harvey Dent is the one that brings them together has that, like, I think it has that sort of intrigue that they're all like, we got to see what's going on with this, and that they follow him.
If you take going back to what we
Is
talked
this
about
the one
before.
you're talking
Yes, sir. Yeah,
about?
that's it. That's
Yep.
it. But just real quick, to actually, I would like to see that digitally next time I see you, just because I've seen this in print, so it's a lot darker. But just go back to Poison Ivy for a minute. By herself, the way she's drawn, you say, well, that's not my favorite way for her to be drawn. But then you look at his treatment to each character. It is much more a Halloween effect on each character. Like, the Scarecrow looks just like a Scarecrow. You know, like, there's no difference between, like, him and an actual Scarecrow that would be in the field. Look how monstrous the Penguin looks and the way the Joker looks. So she kind of fits right in with them, you know? And the Mad Hatter looks like he walked right off the set of doing, what do you call it?
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland, yeah. So,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, they all look creepy. That's for sure.
I mean, even Dent is really...
Well-
that on 345, the close-up of Dent, that's really... He's got stuff coming out of his head, and it's...
Yeah,
gross.
that's super gnarly.
Yeah.
The way that his hair, like some few follicles left in his head.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's super
And,
crazy.
Again, it kind of looks like, you know, maybe inspiration for the one that we saw in The Dark Knight, because it looks more like Burns, and it looks more like, you know, he lost his hair and his eyebrow and his mouth has come out. You know, it's not the Harvey Dent of, say, the animated series, where it's like the acid is like really just discolorized him and kind of screwed up his pupils and stuff.
Melted him.
Or
yeah.
This or
was
the Tommy
more of
Lee
a
Jones
burn.
one.
Yeah, which is a melt.
You know, who pretty much is the same kind of thing. Yeah, this is more like the skin, the hair and stuff is gone from that part of his face.
And if you look right at this, you could say, yeah, that's the Dark Knight, because you look right at the mouth and...
The mouth is the part that gets it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Because Two-Face, I mean, I remember when that movie came out, people were talking about how scary Two-Face looked when they finally saw him.
When he takes the drink in the bar, and you see it go through his mouth, and his bone is showing, and it comes out the side of his cheek.
Man, what a good movie.
Yeah.
That was so great.
They gotta make another one.
Never a bad version. But what was so that was your favorite? Is that your favorite shot? Is Harvey Dent surrounded by the rogues?
There's a shot of Batman and the Joker on the plane that I really like as well. There's a bunch of good ones. The one with the Scarecrow is another good one. Like any of those like full like 2-page spreads are fantastic.
What was your favorite shot?
I like the Scarecrow on the horse. I like the one that he was talking about with the Joker and Batman. I like a lot of standalone Batmans just to see how long and goth-looking the cape is. But I love the long-eared Batman. Love that. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I grew up with. So, yeah, there's a lot in this book, to me. You know, there's nothing really like it's... There's like 4 or 5 of them. I want to say there's one. You know, like I'd say, I think my least favorite draw of the row... The cat suit is okay, but it's nothing special. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really say like, oh, that's great. That's a great thing. But I don't know what else you could have done with it, and it's in the type of era they're drawing in. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like there's much options there, you know?
Yes.
They weren't going to go... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think that like purple Catwoman suit was pretty standard for how she looked in the comics at that time.
Yeah, I think so. Because, you know, it's like I said, the rest of them made them look very monstrous. They really didn't do that with her. She's clearly a person who put a suit on. You know, the Penguin is a mess. The Scarecrow looks a mess. You know, the Joker's got the long face with the long teeth and everything. And the Mad Hatter is really little. She's the only one that's really not touched, you know?
You know, they don't really draw her with a tail anymore. And I get that it's a little bit hokey, but I kind of like the tail.
I prefer the tail.
Like, she's somebody that would be like, no, I'm going to have it, like, a tail on my costume. Like, even though it's, you know, somebody could grab it. Or she could step on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at different drawings of Catwoman. Like, and you know, now you see her a lot with, like, the big goggles. You know, the littler pointy cat ears, no tail.
By the way,
that kind of thing.
Page 233. Another Godfather reference.
Is that where Maroni is father?
With the tomatoes?
Yeah. That's right there, isn't it?
Yep.
So do you guys think that Falcone knew his son was the Holiday Killer? Or at least the Holiday Killer for some of the hits?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. He was
And
protecting.
do you think all the hits on Maroni were Alberto?
No,
So what would?
they actually specify at the end. She says the few kills that she did, and I didn't think he killed that many. I think he only ended up killing 2.
The coroner, probably.
Mm-hmm. And I think when the coroner came is when Harvey Dent switched over. Or no, that's when he's. I don't remember the exact layout, but I thought towards the end, she started to reference. She made enough references into who she actually did kill.
Yeah, supposedly. She talks about Thanksgiving. She talked about Johnny, obviously, and then Thanksgiving would have been all of the Irish, right?
Yeah,
So that makes sense too, because those
Christmas.
those are Falcone's guys, so that makes sense that she would have done those killings. And then Maroni's guys are a little bit later, so.
Yeah, so Harvey Dent took over on New Year's when Alberto Falcone fell. Because she says, and you came home late that night, your hair was wet even though you were wearing a hat because he fell off, he swam back off the boat. And that's why.
Right, but now, did he fake his death, or did he just not get killed? Alberto.
He faked his death. Oh, no, Alberto?
You know what I mean? Because if Dent
okay.
swam to the boat to kill him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does that work out?
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, she confesses to the first 3 holiday killings at the end of the book, and those are all the ones on Falcone's family. They don't touch Maroni's, which makes sense later in the book when Maroni's family is getting hit a lot, probably Alberto.
Right.
And then probably, I don't know, it's weird though, because their relationship, Alberto and his father, is not that great, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what his motivation is for doing those killings. If he just liked her, if he wanted to be, he thought that the crime bosses were a thing of the past, and you know, Gotham
and he says
City has moved on to much more dangerous, crazy criminals.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Joe, I can't hear you.
No, we're gonna hear you, buddy.
And he was more upset about how his father would skip his own birthday, and he says it, being October, whatever it was, Valentine's Day. Yeah. So his dad would always have business on Valentine's Day instead of spending a time with the son. So that was his motivation, just pure.
Well, that was definitely a symptom of like their relationship not being that great. He was the one who stayed out of the, getting involved in the family, or so it's explained early in the book. So maybe that's what he had something to prove to his dad. But like I said, if that's the case, then how much did the Roman know? I'm not sure. But they buried somebody at his funeral, and there's a shot that didn't make it into the book, and it's a page that was drawn for the book, and they show it on in the cover that you have, Campbell, and it's basically them Falcone's pulling up Alberto's body or somebody out from the water, and they're on the beach. It should be in the back of your book, the way back.
I have it.
You got it on yours?
When they're in the cliffs.
Yeah.
With the raindrops.
Yeah.
Ironically, there was a body written and penciled into the story. Whether or not it was Alberto was for the reader to decide, but it was cut from the final printed version due to length.
Right. So that's interesting. God,
don't you love how they show you the little inside baseball and how they draw these things? And I
always love that stuff.
Right?
I love seeing the process and how these things come about. Yeah.
You get it in the digital version too. And then they say whatever happened to Alberto, they gave you a scene where he's across the way from the Calendar Man, so that's cool.
Calendar Man, underutilized. Could you imagine if there's a Batman film with Calendar Man as the main villain?
Oh my god! If we ever got to that point where I would say we're saturated in the comic book movies.
Dude, we're not saturated in Batman movies though. When I think about it, this is going to be off subject. We're kind of winding down here, but it's been a while since Dark Knight Rises came out.
Correct. Yeah.
And I don't really count Batman vs Superman.
No,
it's not enough Batman, and it's not really. We're not going with Batman's Rogues Gallery at all, and that kind of thing.
Just because I'm thinking of this again, Batman now in the new movies is wearing the real short ears, right? The Ben Affleck.
I like the way Affleck looks, but yeah, he's got real short ears.
Yeah, and how they were what like medium in the Nolan verse.
I think all the other films they're kind of a standard. I don't know, maybe 5 inches, 4 to 5 inches.
Not like this guy. Like this is. I want a version of it like this. This is like really gothic looking. You know what I mean? Like the real cape and you could do it. They do digital capes now all the time. These guys don't even run around the stage anymore with a cape on. They put the cape on later. Superman doesn't even have a cape. You know?
I don't know.
The ears are like almost a foot long on this guy's head. You know?
Yeah, no, they're super long.
I love it though.
I mean, this is way like off subject, but I wonder who had the longest ears on a Batman costume.
So, all right, wind down before you go into that world.
That's a rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole. I'm looking.
Yeah, no. So
Kilmer's ears are pretty long.
Here's a question for you. What is your recommended reading if I was to want to continue the great Batman story after this one?
Oh, sure. Dark Victory is a direct sequel of this.
Okay.
And it also, Robin comes into play. He's a big part of that story. It's really pretty cool the way, and he's drawn like a little kid. He's tiny. I read it. I haven't read it in a long time. I can't even begin to remember what it was about, other than that Robin was in it. He was on the cover. But that's a good one. Hush, like I said, Joe, Hush is great. Yeah, it's really great. That's Jim Lee and Jeph Loeb again.
Yeah.
Tim Sale worked with Jeph Loeb a lot. Yes. I know he wrote some Spider-Man, he wrote some Superman. I haven't read a lot of Tim Sale stuff outside of these books, these Batman books.
Just to go back, though, the other one you could read is The Haunted Night, which is that collection of those 2 Halloween stories.
I think 3.
Yeah,
Halloween
they're one
stories.
Shot. Okay.
Yeah, and those are all in the same world. And again, I can't really remember those at all. And then apparently, I've never read this, but there's a sequel to Dark Victory, not written by, but it's in that same kind of Year One universe, called Robin Year One.
Okay.
I can't recommend that, but you might want to check it out if you're, interested in this little Batman world here
This is the part of the movie world that drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make all these superhero movies. You have a script right here. This is a script. This is a movie, and they'll never do it. That's the thing that drives me crazy.
No, they'll never do it.
And that's a great story. That's a great story.
Change the title, make sure that Jeph Loeb is paid, and just rip it off. Like, I'm okay with because that's what The Dark Knight kind of is. It's not a rip off, but they obviously borrowed from this. They've closely followed source material to create their film, and it's fantastic.
Listen, I always thought the way Nolan used the crime lords, the underworld, and the mafia was genius. They're always in the background of these movies, right? And they're heavy present in the first one. I mean, they're heavy in the second one, but they're not the main bad guy. The Joker is created because of them, right? And I always said, if you were going to do the Superman world, the way you make Lex Luthor work is make him like the way Nolan used the mob is the way you use Lex. Like, he's always in the background, always pulling the strings, always getting things done. He doesn't have to be the guy who's front and center all the time, Because I love the way the mob is used in the first 2 movies, I don't even know if they're touched in the third one when the whole Bane thing happens. I don't think they are.
At that point, like, supposedly Gotham City had been cleared of organized crime.
Right.
So yeah, they're not really touched in that movie too much. Yeah. I think that kind of wraps it up for the show. Unless you guys have anything else you wanted to add?
I would say this is a must read, and it's something that I would love to say that I could do this all the time. Now that it's out and I just did it, I would like to say I would like to read this every Halloween because I love the story. It's a great story.
It really is, and it's really not that. I don't know what makes it such a quick read, but for 13 issues,
that's because you're so into it. Anything that's good is quick.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what it is. And I know who the killers are, but I still like to go back and see how it all unfolds, and it's just very well written.
But there's so much detail in there, Chris. You could go back there and read that 3 times and see a frame 3 different ways and see something in the frame that you didn't see before. See the details that you might have missed. So it's definitely here's the thing, man. Can you tell me? This was what, 1997, I believe. Like, I was looking at the date.
Oh, I thought it was earlier.
Okay, well, one of the prints in the back said 97, so I wasn't sure when it was actually put out.
96, 97, you're right.
Okay, so Hush came after that, right? And that was a good story.
Right, that came out in around 2002, 2003.
Okay. Can you tell me another story like this? You know, you told me about the Dark Victory. I don't know how good that was though compared to the rest of this, but I feel like it's been a long time since there's been a series that went like this that was connected. You know, like the Owls would be the closest thing I remember, and that Owl series was good, but it wasn't great. You know what I mean?
Kinda. I'm a little bit confused. Are you talking about just like? I'm not sure.
Okay. This was a 13 issues book, right? When it came
Right.
out, it came out by issues. It came out one a month. So it was part of the Batman line, right? And it was a story that you connected to each issue, and it ran for 13 months. When's the last time we had an event like that that was that good that was in the line?
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So
Well,
like,
you know, this book and Hush, they're both mysteries. There's a question asked in the beginning of like, who's the holiday killer, and then who's Hush, and you read on and try to figure it out, and you know what I mean. So I think like a good mystery in like a Batman story sometimes is missing.
right.
As of late,
Right.
you know, and one that's allowed to run for a full year.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I don't
So
think
it'd be cool to see.
Yeah, the owl story was what, about like maybe 7 issues, 6-7 issues, so not a full year.
Yeah, and that was I love that story, and you're learning about this you know, this secret group, and that's what's really fun about that is learning about them and seeing how Batman deals with it. But it's not necessarily a mystery,
Right.
you know. Although there are elements of it when you find like there's sort of connections between the Waynes and the Court of Owls and everything.
Yeah, I know. There was some moments where he's in the top of the attic of that house he was breaking into, and he sees the painting of the owl group, and you start. It was definitely good. I'm just saying, you know, like this is a must read. The Long Halloween is a must read. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's it for me.
That's it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Next month is probably going to be Ragnarok. We're going to talk about Thor. That's not for sure, but it's probably.
Yeah, it's not for sure, because I just remembered that Punisher comes out next week, and I don't know anything about the Punisher. Like a backstory. And I just saw a graphic novel about Punisher Max Volume 1 in the beginning.
We could talk about Punisher stories.
Yeah. We'll see what it is. We'll let you guys know via all of our social media networks and on our website where you can find and plug in. Make sure you guys go to thesplashNetwork.com. You can find our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All of our social media stuff. Make sure you do that. And we'll see you guys again next month.
Next month, yeah. Go check out The Splash. Go check out Quick Conversations. Go check out TV Rewind episodes we got up. Lots of stuff going on right now, as always.
All right, guys. Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you in a month.